Hi, Gene Montrastelli here, the editor of tappingqanda.com. The video that you are about to watch is a conversation that was a part of this year's 24 Hours of Tapping. The 24 Hours of Tapping is a fundraiser for the amazing work that is done by the Peaceful Heart Network. The Peaceful Heart Network has brought tapping to migrants, refugees, prisoners, and the underprivileged in over 30 countries all over the world. As you watch this video, if you learned something, if you were touched by it, if you were inspired by it, the easiest way to say thank you is to support the work of the Peaceful Heart Network. To do that, all you need to do is go to 24hoursoftapping.com/support. And as you look in the description and the first comment down below, you will see a direct link to that. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Our next guest is my friend, Jondi Whitis. Jondi loves energy work and her beloved EFT to a host of tapping adaptations that reflect years of practical hands-on training, mentoring, and client work. She calls herself the people's teacher in honor to her commitment of making energy work accessible to all. Jondi's body of work includes trainings for groups and individuals seeking to use energy tools and healing recovery from trauma and personal transformation. She has a particular place in her heart for the professional life, for humanitarian outreach, and the work with veterans, indigenous people, and teachers. Please, please, please welcome to our virtual stage, my friend, Jondi Whitis. Hello, my dear.
Good morning. Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm so pleased to be with you. I am great, and I got some sleep, so I'm already ahead of the game. Thank you so much for doing this.
I've only cried 4 times this morning, so you know you're gonna have to hold it together for the two of us as we navigate our way through all of this.
I got my marching orders. All right.
Excellent. So I was, it's always this really interesting experience that when we're doing an event like this, we're reaching out to people who we want to hear from. And you're always at the top of my list, particularly when we're talking about humanitarian aid and giving really practical tools to people. Like it is your strength, and I love it so dearly. And when we send out these invitations, it's always kind of like, so what do you want to talk about? And for me, like, I'm less excited about what people are really good at. I'm more excited about what people are really passionate about and that thing that lights them up. Like, I don't care what you do. I care why you do it. Like, I think that's in just all of the people in my life. Like, it doesn't matter if you whittle toothpicks or you build skyscrapers or you're a doctor. I'm way more fascinated by the why. And so I would love to hear what you had in mind when you were thinking about this particular conversation that we're having today.
Sure. Well, thanks for inviting me always and being a part of this work in the world that I think we're all here to do. I recently did a speech at ACEP called "The Kids Are Not Okay." And the crucial time is now. And the reason I wanted to talk to them about this very subject is the why that you're asking about. It occurs to me that all of us know what's going on. All of us have eyes to see, and we can read. We can see I want to call it toxic viral load that we are expecting our kids to carry with very little support of the kind that would actually be helpful to them. So this is what's on my heart. This is my how and why, is to say, look, all of us know enough right now and have enough stature and connection within a community wherever we are to make a difference, even if it's only post our stuff, post how to help people, donate to Peaceful Heart and Tapping, 24 hours of tapping. Even if that's all you can do, it's called a start, right? But I want you to go deeper because I want you to connect with the how and the why that is uniquely yours to do. So when I look at those kids and what they're being asked to carry now, I say, what does that mean to you? To anyone I'm talking to. Bring up that conversation. You don't have to make it a sad conversation. To me, this is an exciting opportunity to talk to you about what we now know that can make a huge difference in everyone's life, especially our future, which is also called our kids. So ask me to turn this in a direction that you particularly wish to join me in. I want to make sure that this is right up the alley of all the people that you're interested in getting to today, into their heart.
And so, like, one of the cardinal mistakes I made as a young practitioner and young in all of this sort of stuff was trying to find a way between my zeal and fervor for transformation and my inelegant running of people over, being motivated by this particular zeal. And so, because I think what happens for most of us, community like this who is aware of what is going on in the world, is thoughtful and deliberate. It's almost like the opposite of a bell curve, and it's almost more of a dumbbell, where at one end of it, we are so overwhelmed by what is out there. And it's like, I'm like trying to drain the ocean with a teaspoon. And at the other end of it, I'm coming from a place of such righteous indignation because I am so personally hurt by what is going on in the world and the systems and the structures that are putting young people in harm's way. And for me, and then the other thing that happens for me in my own life is it then becomes like this pendulum that is going, it's not swinging. It's almost like it's in position A or it's in position B. I'm either overwhelmed or I'm running people over. I'm overwhelmed or I'm running people over. And so once we have this recognition of there's a problem, once we have the recognition of there's tools that I can share with other people, what then becomes the next step in a way that we're helpful? Not like what I want to do is I want to create light. I don't want to create heat. And it's so much easier to create heat than it is to create light. And so because I know you that you've been like, this is not, hey, I need to give this talk today. Like this has been burning in your soul for, the decade and a half that I have known you. We the very first conversation you and I had was about kids and tapping. Like literally 15 years ago, the first conversation we had was in that spot. And so how do we do that in a way that is helpful?
Well, beautiful question, because I think all of us do that same thing. Our zeal gets the better of us. And I used to tell people that I handled it like a Labrador puppy, just like go all over the place. And that makes people stand back. So the first part is get yourself in gear, right? So you and I have a big righteous indignation button. So push that button and tap for yourself first. Get that out there. So it all starts with us, no matter what we're doing. But in this particular case, answering your question, get yourself in gear first. And that means grounded, regulated, stabilized, whatever fancy word you want. I call it ready.
Yeah.
Right. And that means before I get out the door or to that person, to that call, to that newspaper, whatever it is.
And that like in my overly processed language, because that's the way I think about things. What I just heard you say is I need to have a proportionate emotional response to the circumstance. And a proportionate, it's one of the reasons why I, have always kind of bristled at the name emotional freedom technique, because in one of the ways I read it, not the way that it was written, but one of the ways that I read it, and this is my own baggage that's coming to it, I'm reading it as saying, the goal is to be free of our emotions. And for me, that's never been the goal, but getting ready, doing our work, regulating ourselves before we do that. For me, what that's saying is I am moving with purpose. I am moving with energy inside of myself, so I am not flailing all over the place as I'm trying to communicate in that particular way.
Beautifully said. I'm a very right brain person. You know that. And I have to balance. So let's talk about that. I have to balance out the left and the right. And what do I mean by that? I mean, I have to prepare, get myself ready, I would say, to be able to be heard. Okay. To be able to communicate as best I can. Because in this part, I'm using a very left brain kind of thing where I'm saying, what is the outcome I desire? And what is the best I can do to get that outcome? Well, it's not show up like that, right? It is to come ready, grounded, and seeking that reasonable energy that I want to give out. I have to present that. It goes before me. It gets there before I do.
And it's so interesting. And like, there is the way that we show up, and then what you're saying there and the way that we show up. The thing that I immediately thought of is a marketing lesson that I'm regularly teaching practitioners. The way that someone who is inexperienced in tapping goes, oh my gosh, tapping's really, really awesome. Let me share you this thing that is really, really awesome. Right. But what is much more useful, just in a marketing term, and the reality is getting someone to buy into tapping or to choose to go to dinner with you, that's a marketing task. For me, it goes, I understand you, I care about you, I have a plan. And so often we show up as like, oh my gosh, I have a plan. I care about you. Now let me show that I understand you. And that is putting me first, and it's not putting them first. And
Absolutely.
It gets me in this frame. It gets me in a frame where it's like, you know, and we've heard this multiple times in the 16 and a half hours that we've been here, is the number of times people have said, ask one more question, go slower, listen, be present. Because then what we're doing is we are, I don't know if buying credibility is right, but we're demonstrating that we're actually approaching another human. We're not approaching a conquest for them to do what I am saying.
Absolutely. This is not about you. Getting very clear about your intention to be of help, service, or support. That's about you. And now you get yourself ready and you show up. The rest is about them and creating accessibility, right? So that they can take advantage or not of what it is you're offering. And when you're offering, the best offer you can make is one that is qualified by what they need.
Yeah.
So to your points that I was going to make also, I need to know what would make a difference in your work, your life, your relationships, your school classroom, your church. It doesn't matter to me. The idea is humans are only relational creatures. That's just who we are. So what would make a difference in what you're dealing with right now is a big, fat, open-ended, joyful question that says, I would like to help you. And when we use that word help, by the way, we never use that with veterans and first responders because that's their job. So it's, how can I best support you with what's important in your life right now, with what's going on? I have some stuff that I'm thinking of that might be perfect, but let me hear from you. So we're actively listening and asking, we're inviting them to tell us what they need.
And what you're doing is you're echoing, we had a conversation a number of hours ago about grief. And the thing that you are echoing in the way that we respond to people who are going through extreme grief is, you know, all of the examples that she gave were questions. And it's so easy for something like affirmative consent to become the silly buzzy word, but oh my gosh, is that so necessary in this particular space of like showing up, going, how can I don't know if you know David Reese. You would love David Reese. David Reese is an artist and a musician, and just he's all of the things that you would love in the world. And he had this show called Going Deep with David Reese, where he took in 22 minutes, he took one thing: how to tie a shoe, how to swat a fly, how to make an ice cube. One of the episodes was on how to load a dishwasher. And the phrase that he said from that rings in my head forever is, help is only help when it is offered in the manner in which it is asked.
Beautiful. efficient.
And many people in our world are not very good at asking for help. But what you're doing here by showing up with a question, what you're doing is you are either creating vocabulary, you're creating a platform, you're giving them permission because they might not feel like they have permission to ask for something. And so it makes it easier for them to take a step towards us to be able to hear what is going on, because like what you just shared there is the way you approached it. It's like, oh my gosh, this seems really, really hard. What can I do to be helpful? Like it just makes it so,
absolutely.
The approach is so different.
I mean, think about it. If whatever it is that they're doing is their job, then it's somewhat insulting to say, how can I show you how to do your job better?
Right. Yeah.
I don't think I'm listening to you anymore. I think I'm busy trying to get rid of you or shut you off. Right.
And it's interesting when you say your job, like my job is to be Gene. It's not just like the job that I have, but sometimes like what you're talking about here isn't just professional. It's like, I'm going to show up and I'm going to teach you how to be Gene better. Like, I would not respond to that very, very kindly. And so like recognizing they are the expert in their experience. Oh my gosh, does it make it so much easier for us to approach them?
I think this is 101 if you stop and think about it, but we don't usually do that. Our zeal, to use your word, gets the better of us. And I'm often running, I'm laughing, thinking of Todd grabbing the back loop of my jeans going, whoa, where are you going? Right. And so I'm saying, get yourself out of the way. Thank you, Gary Craig. Get yourself ready in whatever way that is meaningful to you. And that also means really clear on your intention. And if it's just to support, serve, or help, then you're going to want to ask some questions. You're going to want to show up in a way that feels really good, unthreatening, and somewhat helpful, I hope. And you're going to be turning on these ear bob things because you really are listening. You're not thinking of the next thing you want to say.
Yeah.
You're listening. So in this way, it's an offer and an invitation, I suppose, but it has to start with you and getting yourself out of the way. Being a walking example is another way to say that. If I walk into your room all dysregulated, to use fancy talk, I'm not going to be very successful in anything except adding to the problem.
And it's this idea of getting ready, like you're talking about like being an active listener. That isn't the word you use. You described active listening perfectly. And active listening is a high wire act because I don't get to plan what I'm saying. I have to be comfortable enough in the conversation where it's going that I have an intention without having an agenda. And I am figuring out how to connect with you in a way that might be helpful with my intention of creating transformation. But I literally have to listen, and then I have to construct a thought. And like when I say it like that, that seems really trivial, but you and I have tapped with enough people who have trouble showing up in the world, comfortable inside of their own skin because they're afraid of judgment and saying something dumb and something wrong and all of that sort of stuff. And oftentimes we think about that when I am building my business, I'm asking someone on a date, I'm trying to do those things. But this is just as emotionally dangerous, where I am going to show my soft underbelly saying, hey, can I help you? And you can go, poke, no. And you can push me away in that particular way. And so I know for me, when I feel like I'm stepping into something that could be dangerous, I'm going to overplan. I'm going to have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. I'm going to have a contingency to plan C. And you're asking me not to do those things. You're asking me to show up and listen. And so get ready means that I need to be comfortable enough inside of my own skin that I can do that. I can show up with intention without agenda in that particular way. And boy,
absolutely, I love that. Without agenda, right?
Yeah.
It's your intention, But an agenda is a totally different meaning. And I think that it's easy for us to have an agenda because, like you said, our enthusiasm is a lot. Well, I've got something that's really going to be. So our intention is good, but our agenda is single-minded. It's like the capital I in the room. So we need to flip that.
And as you're saying that, like, this is an awesome opportunity as you're saying all of these wonderful things, as I'm going through the catalog of all the times. Yeah, I screwed that one up there. Yeah, I screwed that one up there. And so as you're saying that, screwing that one up was this internal desire for credit and validation. Not just showing up and being helpful. Like there was some rear admiral said it sometime in the 80s. I don't know. But the quote is basically, you can accomplish anything if you don't care who gets the credit. Yeah. And again, it's not like, boy, I really struggle with taking credit. But as you're going through this and I'm thinking of the times that I'm sharing, there's just this thinking like, oh yeah, the reason why that didn't work is because I needed to have too much credit for that particular thing. Therefore, based on what you were saying, I was not ready because I was not getting out of the way in that particular way. The other thing that I love what you're doing here, Jondi, is so often because we are working in a modality that is so skill based, like it's so tangibly skilled. Like, if I had a nickel for every process and tool and recipe that I created for approaching something and tapping, like we wouldn't be doing a fundraiser right now. The Peaceful Heart Network would be doing whatever the hell they wanted because that's all I do. And being in a circumstance of like, we're already designed to do it in a particular way because we know this is the way to do it. And that's such a challenge to be able to show up as a helper and let go of that.
I do believe that this is just about being human, being the best part of human, if you ask me. But it's also for the tappers, which are predominantly the people who are probably listening. The idea is the reason I love, most of all, teaching and mentoring, advanced tapping, level 3+, whatever you want to call it. It's because it's the art of application of a set of tools that are infinitely flexible, integratable, and useful. But it's the how. So I'm pulling full circle, I guess. It's the how we offer approach and language that is going to be most useful in giving it to somebody else.
And the other thing that I like about that, it is scary to go, the way that I'm going to be successful in the world is I have to look at myself and I have to do the transformation and I have to show up in that way. So that's the negative side, that I have to go look at me and I want to look at myself in the mirror. I don't want to look at me. Like those are two different ways of peering at myself. Okay.
Right.
But what it does is when I do that, then what it gives me is it gives me the ability to show up in a way that I'm actually helpful. And it is the place where I have the single greatest control in this universe is what is going on inside the house. That's the place I can start. That's the place I can transform. And so scary as your challenge is, like scary for me, I don't know if it's scary for other people, but scary for me. As scary as that challenge is, it's also the place that if I accept that challenge and I do the work to show up in the way that I need to, then I'm going to be a greater agent of change in the world. And I don't know exactly what that is going to look like as it plays out, but I am so much more likely to actually, again, this idea of creating light and not just creating heat as I'm stepping into a circumstance.
Absolutely. And so let me get down to some practical tacks, because I like to think that what we're teaching is practical excellence in tapping application for a world in need. That.
Okay. I want you to please say that phrase again. I love all three phrases inside of that.
Oh my goodness. I can't recall that, but it is in my heart. It's written in my heart. We're interested in practical excellence in tapping application for this particular work to go out into the world to achieve whatever mission it is whatever goodness or betterness that you're trying to achieve, right? It's what makes it meaningful instead of just a toolbox in my closet.
Right.
Right? So let's look at the practicalities of what I was trying to give at ACEP. We don't need any more information. The stats are an avalanche. They're staggering and we're drowning in them. We don't need any more information about what needs to be done or who it needs to be done for, but you still get to choose. The next part, however, is to say, okay, what has held me back in the past? And to a certain extent, we did not have what we felt was the cred to do it. We have been vilified in many ways, but we've also been uplifted in many ways. And over 3 decades, we now have a pants load, and I'm making you smile, I hope, when I say that, but a pants load of research and proof that this works efficiently, well, it has longevity, and it works better than so many other things. So we already have that going for us. So now it's time to take all the information I have and all the backup I need. And now it's to say, where am I in the world known? Where do I already have street cred? Where do I already have a connection? Where do I already have a right to exist, to speak, to help, to offer? From there, even the shyest among us, and of course, you do know I'm a closet introvert dressed as an extravagant extrovert, right? That means some days I can only put your logo on my website or my post or repost. That doesn't take anything, and it doesn't put you out there, right? Or donate, right? These are the low-hanging fruit anyone can do right now. But from there, we take a look at the other 3 things I mentioned, and I say, hey, I could offer to speak. I could write a letter. I could talk to my local newspaper. There are still a few. I could be on podcasts that are, tangentially at least related to this, if not dead focused. I could work with people who are really good at this. I could call up Jean. I could call up Jondi. I could call up a number of people who are already involved in that kind of humanitarian outreach for some mentoring. Mostly it's free because you're asking people to talk about what matters most to them, right? So what am I saying? All of us can do something to promote, to distribute, to donate, to speak, to show up, to post, to say. But the outcome is just dependent on you and me. And I don't mean just you and me. I mean every one of us showing up in whatever way you can manage right now.
And one of the things that I think is kind of useful inside of this when we're sharing in the way that we show up in all of these contexts is to show up descriptively, not prescriptively. Showing up and I'm describing my experience. I'm not prescribing what you can do. When I was really early on as a tapping practitioner, when someone said no when I offered tapping, I felt bad. I felt like I failed. I took it personal. I did all of those things. Then I realized after a long period of time, what was going on was me offering, me sharing my story, and them saying no was planting a seed. It wasn't a rejection, so that the next time someone made the offer, they had heard about it once. And then the third time they made the offer, it's there, and all of a sudden like, oh, maybe this thing has something to it. And so recognizing, like, showing up and sharing and doing going all of these places like you're saying, and like, for me, again, going back to I need to have some credit inside of this, being able to let go of my attachment to whether or not you are going to say yes. And it's really difficult because I know you're suffering. It's really difficult because I know the burden that you are up against that you might not be able to clearly see, and being caught between those things in that way.
Absolutely. And I'll riff on what you said. I am not offering tapping, even though it is the way I am known in the world.
Yeah.
I'm a trainer of trainers who teaches tapping and what. Yeah, but that's not what I'm offering. I'm offering my presence, my listening, my real connection, my safe connection, my support, my presence. That's what I'm offering you. Tapping is a vast set of tools that are really useful in the world. But that's not what I'm really offering you right now.
And for many people like us are in a circumstance where we actually are in circumstances where our job is to teach a modality. We teach classes about how to do that. We teach people how to do that. The trainer of trainer, we do that sort of stuff. But when we're out in the world bumping into messiness, we are not facilitators teaching a modality. We are helpers who are trying to alleviate pain and suffering and distress. And it doesn't matter if they know the name of the tool. It doesn't matter if they remember tapping points. It doesn't matter anything other than I left them a little better than I found them as a fellow human on this particular journey. And what that looks like does not matter.
Absolutely. I mean, do you remember a long time ago, I talked at Spring Energy event about the heart of EFT? I think I've gotten bigger than that. That's what we're talking about, though. It's we're not any longer talking about a tool. And you know that I've long been probably not the biggest fan of branding because that's not what's important to me. There is no new idea in the world, but there are new recombinant iterations of it. And for me, what's important is there's new opportunities being birthed right in front of you every day to be of help or support or connection. And I'm going to keep using the connection word again, because we are relational creatures. That's where we start. The relation with ourselves, then the relation with the other that you have chosen to be in the presence of or bring presence to.
Yeah. And as you're saying that, like for me, the way that has been rattling around in my head is tapping is a tool, but all that matters is application, and application is context dependent. And there are some contexts where it's not appropriate for me to be applying the tool, either because of resource state or because of skill or because of who knows, but thinking about it in those particular ways, like one of the reasons why I love your conversation so much in Emotional First Aid. And I advocated for us to do this training in September that you're going to be leading a part of is because I think that is the thing that you do so skillfully, is equipping people to be human in the moment and helpful. And it does not matter what it is called and how it is done. What matters is the helpful, open-hearted, I am not running over you, I'm listening piece of it. And like a less skilled practitioner is going to get much further as being a helper than a super skilled practitioner based on that approach and based on how they're thinking and those sorts of things.
Thank you. I absolutely agree with that. I believe that how you show up is much more important because you're going to be able to make that connection. The next piece is if you have learned these tools, and I hope you have, and if you've become very practiced at offering them, they are on the shelf, as I say, and you pick them and pull them down as they are. As you say, they're context dependent. I just say, what's a great, useful thing I could offer to them right now? And I may not language it at all. I may just be it, do it.
And what and the thing that I think that like is really important, what you're saying there is you're saying that we can't know the tool. We need to be competent in the tool to be able to do it that effortlessly in the moment. You know, like Fruits of a Wasted Life. The number of hours that I have spent with a deck of cards in my right hand in dealer's grip and my left hand in dealer's grip and my right hand doing double lifts and second deals and all sorts of stuff as I'm watching crappy television and just like practicing it over and over and over again. And like there literally this summer, there was this pile of cards as I was learning a way to fold a card so you couldn't see it. So that when I'm in a moment and I'm not doing a magic show, but I'm hanging out with my neighbor's kids, and he turns to his dad and he goes, "He's really magic." Because I wasn't doing a show, I was just in the moment with this thing, contextual, and it's such a trivial example of it, but that's what you're asking. You're asking us to be skillful at the things so that we can be supple and spontaneous in the moment.
Absolutely. And what we're offering here through your example, it's not a silly example. It's tangible, right?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how to do that with cards.
Yep.
But I appreciate it because to me, you are embodying the magic, right? Mm-hmm. You have a skill set that is second nature to you, like playing the piano, like getting on a bike. You don't think about those things. You just do them because you are so practiced. So that's what I'm saying. We bring to the picnic already practiced, but we don't think I'm going to use the Geneva fold on this guy.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
We have these skills and we're going to tangibly bring them into, again, your word and mine, context. But it's like in connection, what is useful? Do you remember when I was the lead trainer over in the Newtown Trauma Relief Community Project? People used to make fun of me all the time for this little mantra. But you know what? I started to embody it because I realized it's just true for me. And I would say this little mantra to myself for this moment, for this situation, for this person, what is useful for me to say or do? That's it. There is nothing else.
And like, you know, what useful, the question that matters. How's it working for you?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's it. Like, how's it working for you? Not how graceful, not how beautiful, not how elegant. How's it working for you? And, you know, tell me I'm useful, compliment my shoes, I'm yours forever. Like literally, I am that simple of a human being. You do one of those, or buy me really good sushi. Like you do one of those three things and it's done. Like, you know, I'm a very simple man like that. It's just that it, but like, it's such a different approach when we are stepping into a setting of not how do I fix, not how do I get my way. It's how do I be useful? And again, like where we started, that requires us to begin with a question as we step into that particular thing. We're immediately putting ourselves in that particular way. And like, even if you are not a tapper, even if you can't remember any of your skills in the moment, if we first remember, my job is just stand next to you, be present safely, and then ask you how I can be useful. Like if I do those two things, like we're going to figure it out. And sometimes being useful is just sitting next to you, drinking a cup of tea, reading a book. So you have another warm body in the room. So you are not abandoned in the middle of something hard. I don't have to provide insight or context or ask you thoughtful questions or even make you tea. Like literally, now I will, don't get me wrong. If you need it, I will do that. But just sitting at the table next to you sometimes is the way that I do that thing.
And what we're illustrating so nicely here is doing versus being, right? I want you to be in the room. I want you to be available. I want you to be present. I don't necessarily need you to do anything in that moment because I'm surrounded with overwhelm at this moment and I don't need one more piece of input. But this person feels like a well of calm next to me. He's just peacefully present.
You know,
I am gravitating over there, right?
Yeah. Our buddy Rick Wilkes' vocabulary, vibrational leadership.
Yeah.
And it's so fun. And it's so funny as you're saying this is, so I have a website that's 16 years old. I have a podcast that's turning 15 next year. I'm running the 24 hours of tapping off of Tapping Q&A. I have never defined myself as a tapper. That is, every single time I talk about any of the work that I try and do, it is always outcome based. It is always intention based. It's I've never defined myself by the tool set that I use and what I am doing. And I think it's kept me out of trouble. Like it's not like I made this grand decision that that's what I was going to do, but for whatever reason, because that is the way that I think, I am. Right. There are fewer bear traps that I've stepped into, and there are fewer shoes that I've stuck in my mouth. But not eliminated them, but certainly doing that in that particular way.
Well, I understand that. I really do. I mean, the magic of being Jean is enough. Here's another whole conversation we could have. How do we begin to believe and feel we are enough to show up as the magic that is Jean or Jondi or any of the rest of us? Yeah. That is, to me, where it all comes from.
Yep. Yeah.
No, I have had a struggle just marketing all my life because people say, there's something about you. Well, I don't know how to market that, frankly, but I do know how to send it out and be that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, because this is the case every single time you and I have a conversation, we've bumped up against the end of the conversation. But this is the beautiful thing about this. For everybody who is on the line, we are doing this super amazing event in September that is like Jondi and Placide, who you met a couple of hours ago, are going to be, these are the people in my life who live being present as a helper better than anybody I know. I'm going to be in the room running a soundboard. I might do a magic trick or two. I'm going to make sure nothing breaks, but you're going to have an opportunity to sit with these two folks and learn what it means to be present in a thoughtful, caring way. If you were with us a couple of hours ago, you heard Placide talking about how they respond to the 100 days of commemoration every year to the genocide. It's the exact same thing. Standing up, being present, being kind, being there. We're going to have, again, and you can engage with this in multiple ways. One, you can show up live. We're going to find a really dope space to do it in. We're working on that right now. Number two, if you can't make it here to the city, if you are participating in it, you will get a chance to live stream it. And if you show up live, if you're the live stream crew, even if you can't do that, we're going to get you recordings to all of those things. This is not an investment in you. This is an investment in the world because you are going to be a better agent to do those particular things. So anybody who donates at $100 or higher, you're going to get a complimentary admission to that particular thing. And complimentary admission means you can even show up live if you're going to get here to New York. We'd love to have you in the room, but you're going to get a chance to, in practical, simple, direct ways, hear from this amazing woman and her brother Placide to be able to help you to do, because you are not watching this unless you want to make a difference in the world. We want to equip you so you are a better helper. You already have the heart. You already have the skills. We want to make it so it's easier for you to actually make a difference. And you're not moving through the world with righteous indignation, but you're actually doing the thing that is useful and helpful. Well,
so the only question is, will you say yes? Will you?
That's right.
Yes is the only question.
It's really, really super simple. 24hoursoftapping.com/support. Any donation of $100 or more, it's great. And even if you can't donate at that particular level, there's lots of other things that are amazing that are going to make it easier for you to be in the world and do this stuff. Well, as always, it is a delight to spend some time with you and have a conversation. I cannot wait to see you in September, where we get to do this in just a really dynamic way.
Exactly. Love you, love you, love you. Thank you. And thank you to all your crew. You are the brother of my heart. Mwah.
See you soon, my dear. If you found this interview inspiring, I would encourage you to support the Peaceful Heart Network by going to 24hoursoftapping.com/support or clicking the link in the description. And you will see on the screen right now a playlist to all of the interviews from this year's and last year's 24 Hours of Tapping. I hope you enjoy those as well.